Hello, my name is Putkonen. Thank you for joining me. Today we're answering what is the meaning of life? A non-duality teacher's perspective. In non-duality, Advaita, there is only the self. The self is complete. It lacks nothing. There is nothing to gain. And so, what could the meaning be? You see, meaning is something that I think we are very much conditioned into as we grow up. Because as children, we play quite a bit, and then at some age, our parents start yelling, quit playing and do something useful. Work, work, work. Basically, we need to do something that's meaningful, has purpose. And as we continue growing into this idea that we must have a reason to do things and they must have a purpose and meaning to them, we soon start thinking of life that way, that life must have some reason or purpose, because it couldn't possibly be play. It must come to some reason. It must be serious in some way. But that implies something to gain, because when you're trying to do something useful, when you're working, you're trying to gain something. Or you're trying to fulfill some lack. But when there's nothing to gain and there's no lack, what's the meaning behind things? There really isn't any meaning. Meaning is something we create, we imagine, we ascribe to things. Because if you see a rainbow, question for a moment, what's the meaning of this rainbow? Well, of course, we could imagine many meanings of a rainbow. That's where a lot of the mythology and symbolism of what rainbows mean came about. We can ascribe a lot of meaning to a rainbow, but if you happen to see a rainbow, was there really any real meaning to it? Of course not. It's just a rainbow. You see a certain vaguely, rabbit-shaped cloud pass by. What's the meaning of this cloud? Again, signs and omens. People of the past have ascribed meanings to such things. And now we see a vaguely shaped cloud in a form we recognize. It's interesting, but it doesn't really have a meaning to it. And as we are slowly, I guess, as humanity, overcoming signs and omens and this ancient symbolism, and seeing that there isn't inherent meaning in such things, there is becoming more of a possibility, I think, of people realizing there is no inherent meaning in life. There's no inherent meaning to life. So when somebody says, what is the meaning of life? I usually don't answer this abruptly, but there isn't any. But of course, the ego, the adult-formed me, finds this terribly demotivating. Finds this very unsettling, that there's no meaning. There's got to be a meaning to this. Again, this is the conditioned reflex, because we have been conditioned as we become adults that there's got to be a meaning, a use. There's got to be something, we're trying to gain. We're trying to fix incompleteness and lack. And so we think we need to get somewhere. This has got to go somewhere. We've got to get something later. And if we don't do this, now that's the question. If we don't do this, are we somehow not fulfilling the meaning of our lives? See, that presupposes that there is a definite plan in what you should be doing, and you could do something contrary to this. But all there is the self, playing all the parts of the play. Nothing to gain, nothing to lose. As such, there is no wrong choice. There is no way to live in such a way where you'll be later condemned as you didn't fulfill your purpose and meaning. Because as the self, life is more like play. And play is not done for a meaning. You're not saying, hey, we must play cards because of some meaning. We're trying to gain, fulfill some lack, do this, that, or the other thing. If you're suddenly playing cards because you must do this in order to get something, it's not really play anymore. You've corrupted play and turned it into work. As adults, so many of us have forgotten what it is to play. And play is something done simply for its own sake. Not to get something out of it, not to gain, not for some meaning or purpose behind it, simply for its own sake. That's what play is. If you're going to play cards or dice, you're playing cards or dice simply for its own sake. For the joy of shaking up the dice and throwing them. And then counting it up and, marking down scores or moving so many spaces or, whatever you do as a result of the die roll. But it is the joy of this pattern and repetition. Of rolling, doing whatever you need to do, rolling again. There's no particular meaning to it. It is simply play. And so, the self, as I said, is omnipresent. It is everywhere. There's nowhere to get to. It is whole, complete. It lacks nothing. There's nothing to gain. And when there's nowhere to get to and nothing to gain and nothing to lose, where is the meaning? It's more like play. Because when we're playing a game, cards, whatever, we know we're really not gaining or losing anything. Whether we win or lose the dice game or the card game, nothing was really gain or lost. Nothing is particularly changed. It was just the joy of doing that activity. Doing that activity simply for its own sake. The same applies when you play instruments. Not just games, but if you play instruments. If I'm just jamming away on a drum, I may like the particular pattern, the rhythms, the sounds. But there's not a meaning to it. Well, what's the meaning of the song or whatever rhythm you're playing? There's no meaning to it. What's the meaning of your playing the drum? No, there's no meaning. I'm not really gaining anything. It's just there's enjoying the sounds, the patterns, the rhythms, and just kind of going with it. And you do that for as long as you want. And then you can move on to playing another game. All of life is a game. Life is play. And as such, there really isn't any meaning. It's done for its own sake. And this is the viewpoint of the self, which you can say energy just as easy too. From the viewpoint of energy and all these changing forms. One form changes into another. This form stays for a while, this form goes. What's the meaning of it all? It doesn't particularly matter to energy. It's all energy. Forms all come and go. All forms are temporary. And whether a form does a particular this, that, or the other thing, you can't say it fulfilled its meaning or purpose. And I think that's what a lot of people actually fear at a deep level when they are wondering what the meaning of life is or what the purpose is they're trying to, I guess in a way, do what they're supposed to. They're trying to not have a wasted life. But there is no such thing as a wasted life. However you live has been quite an experience, quite the show, the play, another form of play, drama. And whichever character was being played, hero or villain, or just bystander or background, an extra, doesn't particularly matter. Don't think the meaning of life is we must all awaken. There's no should or must about it. You don't have to awaken. It's not a requirement. If at the end of life awakening never happened, it wasn't a wasted life. There's no such condemnation of life. However it was played was unique. And that is its own great thing, is how a character is unique. Every life is a very unique life. Every character is a very unique character, experiencing its own life. It's a play, drama. It's a game. You could even call it a song. And it's never particularly meaningful. It's just enjoyed. But if you have any questions, comments, please post below. But until next time, thank you much.